The committee concluded that in the 19 years since the first UFO was sighted, there has been no evidence that unidentified flying objects are a threat to our national security.
Oh, it's a butcher. I know. Lay down, lay down. Oh, I know. I gotta submit to the kisses or it's just gonna happen. Come here, lay down, lay down. Kind of shocked that a buddy of mine is gonna talk with me, but you know, it's an individual that has direct insight into what I call the chandelier UAP. It was classified UFO UAP by our intelligence agencies.
Hello?
Hey, man, how's it going?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm good. So you are aware that I have to receive something multiple times if it appears to be a military-based assessment that something is a UFO, right?
Correct.
So I've got a still image for something that I have learned to be called the chandelier UAP. Does that ring a bell to you?
It does.
This still image, it was filmed, I can tell by the coordinates, it was filmed over the Persian Gulf.
It's called the chandelier because if you lay down on your dining room table and look up at your chandelier, it looks just like that. It's very thin, and the object does not circulate on its own. It is going in very small circles.
So what was the most impressive thing to you about this video, which the world has not seen yet?
The fact that it makes no sense. It is just the most bizarre structure with no purpose and with speed that has everyone across the intelligence community just asking questions and trying to figure out what this thing is. There is no wings. There's seemingly no place for anyone to sit on. It's just a bizarre shape that has a strange propulsion and disappeared immediately.
So you have obviously had great access to things that the public hasn't seen yet. And it is your determination that this UFO thing, there's something major to it and the public should know?
Absolutely. Absolutely, 100%. I can tell you that across the U.S. intelligence community, there are people like me and David who have seen things and are asking questions and trying to figure out what we're seeing because there are no answers. And when the higher-ups see these, they just find an excuse.
Yeah,
That's what's frustrating.
Are you convinced that UAP are from some technologically advanced group that we don't directly know of?
That's a loaded question. There are so many possibilities. It's not us now. It's not adversaries. Is it us from some other place or dimension? Or there are so many possibilities that probably sound crazy, but I think about it a lot. And there are a lot of people in the intelligence community that don't make, the large decisions, but are interested in this. Where they come from, whether it's in the sea, someplace else, it's a mystery. And one other thing I'd like to say, Jeremy, is there are many, many videos that can't be released of surveillance of other countries that we are doing with UAP all the time, especially around aircraft and around ships.
Like Russian ships and two bad boys flying by. Not that I've seen it with my own eyes, but just saying.
Yes, I've seen quite a bit of that, and that will never be released, I'm sure. But
yeah,
as far as our collection in the skies, I have no problem with that. It's not new.
Wow, man, imagine what we're capturing with our sensors now. Well, thanks, man. I appreciate, for all this time, just kind of giving me your insights. There's a lot of people that I talk with, I kind of cross-reference, if something is legitimate or real. Just even knowing that what I received is an actual, mystery to our intelligence agencies, that's a good heads up, so I appreciate that.
It is a mystery.
It is
a
mystery.
across the IC. Yes, it is a mystery.
I know, dude. There's some good stuff out there. I mean, here's the deal. I'm just glad that there's people in the IC interested in this, and hopefully if something is of that importance, people keep coming forward and giving that information to journalists or whatever, because I think it's, it's key. I don't know if the normal process is gonna move this forward. I think that, unfortunately, we have to rely on whistleblowers and maybe even leaks to some degree, but whistleblowers in particular, I think, is gonna move this ball forward. So anyway, man, thanks for your insights. As always, good to talk with you. And yeah, man, you just take care.
Thank you, and please keep doing your work.
All right, thanks, brother.
Bye.
We are on the cusp of a question that has kind of burdened human consciousness since the beginning. Are we alone? We are now on the cusp of answering that question. This cover-up, and it is a cover-up. It has harmed people having to keep this secret. You have been lied to. The only way that we're gonna be able to break through this is to protect those that are coming forward. People have gone and fought to get this information out, and I don't know where we're gonna land. It's now our job to pry these doors open.
No fucking way.
What are we looking at, Aaron?
The truth might not be roses and birthday cake. It might not be something very palatable. It might be nefarious. Look, that is a possibility. The reality is, every inch, every millimeter of truth on this subject has been fought for at the personal peril of many people that speak to journalists like myself and George Knapp.
My name is George Knapp. I am an investigative reporter with KLAS TV. I've been chasing the UFO mystery since 1987. Long time.
Despite some sniping from other media and the scoffing of government officials, people want to know about UFOs.
They could be extraterrestrial, interdimensional, time travelers, all the above. They could be so many more exotic possibilities that we haven't even considered.
Here's another one right here. You see him? Flying right over our heads.
We have to be open to all the possibilities because the fact is nobody knows for sure. As I've said, I've been at this for 35, 36 years. I've met people who have been at the highest echelons of government and the highest echelons of Congress. They've tried to get the answers to this. No one that I know for sure knows the answers to this stuff. We have to be open to all those possibilities because there's an ontological shock coming. A lot of people who have not paid attention to this topic, who think it's all nonsense, it's tabloid stories, are in for a really big surprise because it's real, it's true, it's here, and we need to figure it out. From a newsman's perspective, I can say this: it would be the biggest story in history. The biggest story, period.
This information, it can be difficult because it completely shatters this idea, this dome of possibility that we believed we live in. I don't know where this goes, but I do know it's necessary.
It's a lot to get your head around, and I'm not sure how humanity in general would react to it.
We begin this morning with more unidentified objects in the skies over the United States.
Yeah, the Pentagon has confirmed that 3 objects have been shot down in American airspace since Friday.
In February, our government shot down 3 UFOs, unknown objects in the sky. One of those was a Chinese balloon. We don't know what the other 2 are because they haven't told us what they were. But, the public paid attention for about 3 days, and then they went back to, hey, when's that Barbie movie coming out?
Disclosure is a double-edged sword. Real disclosure means truth. That's what we must always remember. And the truth is not always fun. The truth is not always psychologically reassuring. The reality is that the truth can be disturbing. Now, the question is, do you want to know it or not? There's a good analogy here. You're asleep, you're dreaming. In your dream, you're on the beach, you're drinking margaritas, you're having a great time, it's awesome. In reality, your house is burning. What do you want to do? You want to keep with the dream and keep drinking the margaritas in your dream? Or do you need to wake up and deal with the fire?
When I'm told I can't know something. Oh, you don't want to know the truth. You can't handle the truth. Fuck that. Yes, I can. What does it look like if we figure this all out?
We're pretty close to reaching the most realistic goal that I think is achievable, and that is for a government to acknowledge there's a non-human intelligence among us. I don't think that there is ever going to come a day when they're saying, yeah, aliens are real, they've been abducting us, there's nothing we can do about it, they control our nuclear weapons, sorry, good night. That's not going to happen. I think we are pretty close to forcing the hand of those keepers of the secrets.
A genuine disclosure of the UAP UFO subject would be probably just about the most earth-shattering thing imaginable. It would have implications for our entire society. It really will show, potentially at the deepest levels, a society that has lived a foundational lie for an entire human lifetime. I don't know what gets bigger than that.
There are a number of different theories about what this phenomenon might be, but then also the prosaic explanation that it may simply be our own technology that the US government has that we just don't know about yet.
The aerospace defense companies, who are often the ones who are working on these black budget programs behind the scenes. These are people who understand how to play high-level chess. And so one of the possibilities is that this is some of our classified tech that's much more advanced than anyone would have ever expected, and they want to get it out of the garage.
For a long time, I wanted to believe that this was our technology, this was our black tech, and that we beat anti-gravity and go America.
I know that our government, our intelligence agencies have used UFOs and UFO mythology to cover top secret programs and top secret platforms and technologies. They've done that. They've taken advantage of UFO stories and lore to hide advanced platforms, planes that can do amazing things.
And so it could be they're going to fake some sort of fake alien invasion to freak us all out and get us to say, sure, spend whatever you have to do to keep us safe.
This was actually done many years ago in the 1990s. The official historian of the CIA, whose name was Gerald Haynes, he said, we were flying the U-2 aircraft and the SR-71, and a lot of people thought those were UFOs, and we just let people believe that because, well, we didn't want them to know what our actual technological capabilities were. Well, the fact is the United States does develop a great amount of exotic, very advanced technology, black budget tech, we can say.
I have personally felt the blunt force trauma of that secrecy, of our government's will and desire to hold this fundamental fact back from its population, from us. And that congressional hearing, it was a monumental moment in human history to get to ground truth on the UFO phenomenon.
A multi-decade UAP crash retrieval and reverse engineering program. I made the decision to report this information and, in effect, becoming a whistleblower.
Have you met with people about advanced technologies that the U.S. government has?
Both space and aerospace compartmented programs, yeah.
Do you have knowledge or do you have reason to believe that there are programs in the advanced tech space that are unsanctioned?
Yes, I do.
It was incredibly vindicating to hear about somebody at such a high level talking about these cover-ups of crash retrievals that our government or defense contractors have been hiding and studying recovered technology that's not from our civilization.
UFOs are real. We have craft. We have obtained some of them. We are exploiting them. We try to figure out how it works. Can we reverse engineer it? So naturally, we go to our contractors, some of these big aerospace companies like Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, Boeing, and we say, hey, look, here's a product we need in secrecy because of national security. We need you to exploit this and figure out for us. Over time, though, the compartmentalization has made it so there's no oversight of these exploitation programs that are occurring today.
You can't FOIA Lockheed and ask them if they've got a flying saucer in Burbank, something like that. So they rely on advanced companies like these aerospace companies to figure out how they work. Can we duplicate that technology? That's what we're trying to do. It's what the Russians are trying to do, the Chinese, and probably a couple of other countries as well.
There's money involved in this. There's money involved in UFO tech. I mean, you think about it. If there actually is real alien tech, what's the monetary value of that? It's got to be very high. And if you've got defense contractors, some of them have in on this and they're able to exploit this, well, that's a moneymaker. It's like a goose that lays golden eggs.
You have a Pentagon that has billions of dollars that they hide, we don't ask for any accounting of. They never pass an audit in the history of audits. I've often said the only way we're really going to get to the bottom of this is somebody's going to walk out of one of these labs with this information and puts it out on the internet before they commit suicide by shooting themselves in the back of the head 5 times.
My attitude is never underestimate the establishment's ability to keep this contained for as long as they want. It is my belief that if the individuals and the groups in charge of secrecy on this matter, and there are such people, if they could hold this out for 5 more years, they'll do it. If they could hold it out for 50 more years, they'll do that too. This is a delay game for as long as possible.
There is no way you can divorce national security implications from that idea of technology. So that's a big reason for the secrecy, and I think it's going to continue. And even though people like Jeremy and I are pounding away at it and trying to get to the bottom of it, it's always going to be that way.
Do you believe that extraterrestrial intelligence has visited planet Earth?
I think you can go a step further. It hasn't just visited, it's been here a long time. And people talk about the wow signal, looking for extraterrestrial intelligence. The wow signal is that people see it on an almost regular basis. That's the communication that's already here.
If you had to assign a probability to that statement, that you believe extraterrestrial intelligence has visited this planet, what probability would you assign?
100%. So, why did I say that? To make an advance in an area, sometimes you have to stake out a slightly more extreme position than you normally would. If I'd said 60% or 95% or even 99%, it wouldn't have gone anywhere. I think as long as the public doesn't give up and still continues to press, maybe one day somebody in the government will make a mistake and the information will get out. We'll see. When I apply for a grant, I will put down my preliminary data. It's just enough data that I feel is so conclusive that I'm willing to stake 2 or 3 years of my life on it. And I say, this is something that I really believe in, and I'm going to use this data as my flag in the sand. And I rarely put forward a hypothesis unless I know it's going to be right.
Another group that comes here might think, that's a really great place. These humans are a real problem. They're detonating all these nukes. They've got all these weapons. They're laying waste, really, to the global ecosystem, let's be real. And they might be thinking, we can manage that a lot better than they are. How do we do it? We're not really biologically suited for it. Can we create our own avatars and live there? I've come across a number of direct witnesses I've spoken to in great detail who have convinced me that there are, brace yourself, human-looking beings, but they're not quite like us. They're here.
It is something that's been hinted at, that they're right under our noses, that there is a sense that these non-human intelligence have somehow adapted and become part of our society.
I don't think there are any simple answers when it comes to this. I think some are of this earth and have actually been residing on this earth for a long time. I believe that some may walk amongst us, as unnerving as that might be. Think about the pandas. Think about a zoo in China. How do you interact with them without scaring them? You dress up in a panda suit. And the pandas, being pandas, they don't realize that it's a human. They think it's just another panda.
I've heard this from multiple different sources. Robert Bigelow Aerospace, has talked about them walking among us. A couple of the primary remote viewers from the U.S. Army and CIA remote viewing program said that they do look like humans and they walk among us when they want to. There's the common concept of the little gray alien with the big eyes. The fact is, we don't really know what they look like.
I don't think it's threatening. I don't think they're manipulating us in some harmful way, but potentially monitoring our activities, potentially monitoring the Earth and the ecology.
I think that what we might be seeing is humanity waking up to the fact that there is a non-human intelligence on this planet. Most people seem to think, because it's the only thing we've ever seen on television or in movies about UFOs, that this is definitely aliens coming from another planet. But I don't think that a lot of the public understands actually how wide the scope of possibilities actually is.
When we think of UAP or UFOs, we tend to think of the sky. But in fact, there are sightings in all parts of the world, including water-based sightings, USOs, that's unidentified submersible objects.
We've had to modify the term UFO because, in fact, they have what's known as transmedium properties. They can seamlessly move from air into water and back again. They can clearly fly in space. The Tic Tac UFO came down from space, descended 80,000 feet in a matter of seconds.
You'll recall when that case came to public attention from the New York Times story, they had been seeing things going in and out of the water and flying out from space down to above the ocean for weeks at a time. I mean, there are countless cases of things that are seen flying into and out of the ocean. There are the navies of pretty much every major superpower in the world have these cases, pretty dramatic incidents of things that they have encountered under the water.
Mr. Favor, do you believe that you witnessed an additional object under the water in relation to your encounter?
There was something there to cause the whitewater, and when we turned around, it was gone, so there was something there that obviously moved.
I spoke to Bob McGuire, who's written about UAP and UFOs, and he reported that he'd been on a Navy submarine and something flew by, and what he said was the speed of sound, 700 miles an hour underwater, which seems to be a physical impossibility given the resistance of water. He said other people saw it too. I mean, it's extraordinary.
We've only actually explored about 5% of the ocean floor. And the oceans make up over 70% of our planet. We're more of a water planet than we are anything else. So it's not completely out of the question that something could have evolved to the point of intelligence under the water without us knowing about it.
The people at the highest level that I have ever had candid conversations, they always refer me to the movie The Abyss. That there is a presence under the water and that UAP reside there, but it makes sense with how we see their craft being able to operate. A couple years back, I released a well-known video, the USS Omaha, where you see in the thermal footage like an egg-shaped UFO that appears to descend into the water.
What was splashed? Mark bearing and range.
This is corroborated by actual reports of people that were there, helicopter pilots that saw these UFOs going into the water.
What I have now seen is that they are of prime importance to the United States Navy, which encounters them much more than we realize. I've gone through a number of these reports. Some of these things seem to have the ability to disable aircraft carriers, battle cruisers, the most powerful, potent things that if you're running the United States Navy, there's nothing more important than your aircraft carrier. And yet we have accounts that I consider credible by ex-Navy people saying, oh yes, for 30 minutes we were unable to engage weapons. That is your single most important piece of military equipment in your inventory, and that thing gets disabled from an object that came rising out of the water, a glowing orange spherical whatever that's hovering over your ship.
They observed a very large 100-yard sided red square approach the base from the ocean and hover at low altitude over one of the launch facilities.
Put it this way, if you were an alien civilization and you had a base on Earth, what would you like it to be that we pesky humans don't interfere with you?
It's a great place to hide if you needed to. Let's say that you evolved in a solar system where there were occasionally events in the solar system that, asteroids that hit your planet and caused mass destruction. Where's a good place to go that it didn't matter where an asteroid hit? Deep underground. I mean, go 10 or 12 miles underground and it would take a pretty big rock to change things.
I think in the future that the research of UFO folks will be in the oceans, because if you talk to folks in upper levels of government, they're pretty much convinced that there are bases, that there are enclaves of non-human intelligence under the ocean waves, and that is where we're going to find some answers.
We interrupt our program of dance music to bring you a special bulletin. Huge flaming object, believed to be a meteorite, fell on a farm.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have a grave announcement to make. Those strange beings who landed in the Jersey farmlands tonight are the vanguard of an invading army from the planet Mars.
Really, since the 1930s, with Orson Welles' broadcast, there's been a lot of concern that people might freak out about what's happening, that they might overreact to information about another presence here on Earth. A lot of people who have followed my work are somewhat relieved because I advocate for the idea that they're us, that they're coming back from the future to visit and study their own evolutionary past.
Some people have suggested that this is maybe even our descendants or like future humans in the future coming back, either to study their ancestors, to learn more about us, or maybe even to help us with some problems that we're having.
Across the board, the recurring pattern is these upright walking, human-like individuals that are involved in these abductions. And we need to think about that critically. The fact that they look and act so much like us, that they can breathe our air, they can communicate in our languages, and most importantly, they have evolutionary characteristics that are exactly what we'd expect to see in our future if this same dominant trends continue. So what is the likelihood that we would get those same physical traits, these same human traits, in a separate evolutionary trajectory on a different planet? I think the simplest explanation is that they're us in our evolutionary future, coming back in time to visit and study their own past.
Now, you talk to a physicist, is time travel possible? I'm past the point in my life where I'm willing to say something is absolutely impossible. I mean, I have been shocked over and over again by certain things that I once thought were never possible in this world and have turned out to be entirely possible and sometimes absolutely real.
You look at what's happening to the planet now. We're screwing it up pretty badly. And, there are a lot of climate scientists who think we've already passed the point of no return. Throughout the history of the UFO phenomenon, people have reported having dialogue with these aliens, wherever they're from. And the message is always the same. It's like an alien editorial. Take care of your planet. Quit messing around with nuclear weapons. It suggests that they are interested in the planet more than they're interested in us because they live here.
they're extraterrestrial, we might expect them to kill us, enslave us, take our resources. But the fact that we don't see that, there's some indication that they're not here to harm us. They're probably here to study us. But I don't think we need to be fearful of this presence, especially if they are our evolutionary descendants. They're us in the future.
Everybody has heard extraterrestrial. They maybe have heard extratemporal, which means that we're experiencing beings or craft that are somehow penetrating our timeline, but are from a different timeline. So now if we're talking about interdimensional, our observation, what we are physically seeing, we might not be seeing the full representation of what that is.
We have hypothesized in a lot of our different scientific models that other dimensions could exist. And if it was possible to cross between them, that could explain some of the weirdness that we're seeing with the UFO phenomenon.
I try not to speak over my own head. As has been explained to me, there are other dimensions of reality, that there could be other intelligences living on Earth that we do not see unless they come into our world. We can't get from here to there, but there is indication that they can enter our world in physical or non-physical forms.
Again and again and again, you get these statements coming from people who have studied it also. Some of them you could say are insider types. David Grush himself made a reference to this in his speech to Congress, alluding to this as a possibility.
You have mentioned that there's interdimensional potential. Could you expound on that?
In terms of multidimensionality, the framework that I'm familiar with, for example, is something called the holographic principle. It derives itself from general relativity and quantum mechanics, and that is, if you want to imagine a 3D object such as yourself casting a shadow onto a 2D surface, that's the holographic principle. So you can be projected, quasi-projected from higher dimensional space.
When you take the deep dive into this phenomena, you start asking questions about the nature of reality, where we are in the pecking order and the cosmic order of things. These are really big questions that really disturb people. When you really boil it down, it's profound stuff that affects us on the most fundamental levels of who we are as people.
Part of it depends on what the actual truth is, what's actually happening. Is this a good, wonderful thing? Or is this scary and dark and dangerous? A lot hinges on that.
Well, there are some possibilities that are pretty dark. How do humans react that we are, in fact, not the rulers of our planet, that we are way down on the food chain? If we are an agricultural product, if they harvest something from us, if they've modified our genetics, if they are our creators, how do people react to that?
It is a strong possibility that we are some sort of commodity. We might be unknowing slaves in a way to serve somebody else's will.
If it comes out what it is, it could be a really dark moment for humanity.
Look, there's a couple of reasons why this incredible subject is kept under wraps the way it has been for really 80 years. There's a human element here. I was given a story which I firmly believe by a man who was extremely close to the White House for many years and very high up in the intelligence community, who told me of when Jimmy Carter was briefed on this matter.
Let us create together a new national spirit of unity and trust.
This gentleman knows, I would say very reliably, that at the end of that briefing, President Carter was seen nearly sobbing with his elbows on his desk and his head in his hands. Something upset him very deeply, which frankly makes sense to me. Because if this is what it appears to be, you're dealing with the presence of at least one very advanced species of some sort, wherever they come from, that's here.
I think we're dealing with something far more complicated and something way more advanced, frankly, than us, and probably almost not understandable by us. I mean, just look at ChatGPT and AI. Scientists today are already saying, we don't understand it. We don't understand how it's coming to the conclusions that it's doing and how it's doing it. And we made it.
A warning from Elon Musk and other tech industry experts about the power of artificial intelligence, saying AI poses a dramatic risk to society.
In the space of 2 years, it's gone from Siri to, oh my God, this is going to take my job. Imagine what it's going to be in another 1,000 years or 1,000,000 years. So now imagine another culture that is probably, at the very least, statistically, more likely to be way more advanced than we are.
I will tell you something though, something that might be a little bit scary to contemplate. Think about a gorilla at a zoo, as my friend Louis Zonde once said. That gorilla's been playing in the zoo for, decades now, hasn't hurt anyone, but it's big. If it got out, it could harm you. Now imagine that gorilla found the keys to its cage. It would spark panic. Think about that gorilla as humanity. As a species, look, we're quite scary. Because of us, a number of other species on this earth have gone extinct. We've created wars, we've killed millions of our own. We're a warlike species, basically. Conflict and civilization is what humanity has been defined by for thousands of years. So if you're another species out there in the galaxy, and all of a sudden this gorilla, which is humanity, finds the keys to its cage, let's, for example, say that the keys represent nuclear technology. Imagine if that happened, and maybe it's in the interest of some of these non-human intelligences that we're put back in our cage.
I've been pretty far up the food chain in terms of people in the government who've studied this stuff, who've worked in classified programs. Some of them have gone to some pretty dark places as a possible motive for what this non-human intelligence might be up to.
Think of it from their perspective. They might be looking at us thinking, yeah, there's a lot of life out here, but actually Earth is really a cool place. I mean, there's planets with life, but you look at Earth. Earth is a beautiful gem. You think about all the life we have. We are bursting with life. We've got all kinds of genetic diversity everywhere on this planet, in the oceans, in lands, in the mountains, in the deserts. It's incredible explosion of life. I've got to think planets like Earth are not just a dime a dozen. I think we have a special place that's worth observation and maybe worth, shall I say, worth coveting.
One of the theories that gets bounced around is this galactic zoo idea. They may just be monitoring us, watching us, studying us, but there's still a hands-off approach that clearly dominates most of their activities.
Imagine it like a fishbowl that we are kind of captive on this earth, and there's others that just enjoy watching us. Why wouldn't they? Human beings are fucking fascinating. So why wouldn't we be a reality show for the entertainment of some non-human entities? What we do to each other and in this world and what we build, it's remarkable.
When I look at ancient UFO reports or other types of things that might be considered evidence for long-standing visitation, I will agree that there are certain things that make me think, yeah, we might be under observation. We might have been under observation for quite some time.
What happens before the United States and Great Britain invades Iraq? We send scouting missions to see what the defenses are and to get intelligence on them before the main invasion is launched. I don't want to scare people, but look, I'll tell you that a lot of the military people who've been investigating UAP, some of them think this is a possible scenario.
When I look at the long history of UFO data, I firmly believe what we are seeing today is qualitatively different than anything that's existed in the past. Why? Because we discovered science.
So today, we tell the world that America has achieved a tremendous scientific breakthrough.
Scientists have made a major breakthrough using nuclear fusion. Everything is changing in the most dramatic ways coming forward. This could be major. This could...
In the snap of a cosmic finger, we've gone from a society of horses pulling wooden carts to where we are today on the verge of an AI revolution, nanotech, quantum computing, genetic modification, transhumanism. Good grief, where does it stop? Nuclear weapons, and whatever kinds of crazy weapons we're developing.
A fundamental threat to the security of all peoples and all nations, the spread and use of nuclear weapons.
Kim Jong-un calls for a mass production of tactical nuclear weapons.
Trump discussed the idea of using a nuclear weapon against North Korea.
Just one nuclear weapon exploded in a city could kill hundreds of thousands of people, and it would badly destabilize our very way of life.
If there is another world war, this civilization may go under.
Do you think, for an instant, if any intelligence is able to monitor us, that they're not aware that we've just flipped the switch? Yeah, because that's what we've just done.
Since the dawn of the nuclear age, UFOs have appeared over nuclear weapons places, nuclear power plants, anything nuclear, they're there. I went to Russia in the 90s and brought back these documents from their Ministry of Defense. They had an incident in the early 1980s, an ICBM base in Ukraine. These missiles are aimed at the United States. For a 4-hour period, UFOs appear over this base, and after a couple of hours, suddenly the launch control codes light up. Somebody entered the launch control codes, the missiles start firing up, they are ready to go. World War III is about to break out. The Russians cannot stop it. Suddenly the UFO goes away, poof, it's gone. The system goes back to normal, and the Russians send in a team, they take all this stuff apart, they can't figure out what caused it. Eventually they concluded the UFOs did it.
To me, these are displays of power. This is to show us that they are in control, not us.
If I were a non-human intelligence, extraterrestrial or whatever, and I was witnessing what humans have done to each other over the centuries, I'd be worried. We're developing spacefaring systems where we can go and extend our inhumanity to other planets. I'd keep an eye on us.
We are not alone. All possibilities are on the table until we can rationally exclude them.
Why is this happening now? There could be something looming. It may be that they just can't keep this secret any longer. It may be that whistleblowers are coming out. It may be that the visitors themselves have decided that it's time for everyone to know what's going on. So why now? I do find it interesting that all of this legislation coming out, the congressional hearings, all of this almost seems to be carrying them along. Almost as if there's some greater intelligence leading this push toward disclosure, and that the members of the United States Congress, the Senate, the House, they're trying to get out ahead of something that they know is coming.
The United States government has always sought to kneecap, to disable the UFO subject in the public mind. And there's a reason, because this subject is a problem for the national security state. It's a problem they can't control. So the implications of this hinge on what is actually true. And our mission as a society, as a civilization, and as a species is to find out what is true.
It is the central question of human existence. Are we alone? Where are we on the pecking order, on the cosmic food chain? How could you not be interested in that just for curiosity's sake?
I think the future is bright. There's no putting this back in the bag. The thing that's unifying to us is transparency, that we've been lied to. Nobody likes being lied to, but we have to protect and treat true whistleblowers. We need to protect them.
To me, this is where the rubber meets the road. We're seeing a battle being played out with a kind of insurgency, you can say, that is trying to get some of this information out. And it is up to those people who care about the truth to push that truth as hard as they can.
Government scientist has alleged that the U.S. military is flying recovered UFOs at a secret base in the Nevada desert.
Bob Lazar says there are at least 9 of the flying saucers being tested and that they were not built on Earth.
Bob Lazar isn't the only person to claim inside knowledge of the flying discs at the test site. He's just the only person to say so publicly.
Hey, Bob, what's up, man? Good to see ya.
Good to see you, Jeremy.
Bob Lazar is a renegade. He just threw a UFO grenade into public consciousness. Boom! Area 51 flying saucers.
There's definite proof, and we even have articles from another world, another system. You just can't not tell everyone.
Reverse engineering, the sports model craft.
It's obvious it came from somewhere else, other than Earth.
I mean, Bob Lazar was the original whistleblower.
Talking about contact, physical contact and proof from another system, another planet, another intelligence. That's got to be the biggest event in history, period.
And it's real.
And it's real and it's there.
Can you fucking believe kind of where we've gotten?
Well, it's like everybody says, I never thought we'd be here, but here we are.
Yeah, and you're always kind of like warning me. I mean, I think it's just because of your experience, you know what I mean, of what happened to you. But when George and I push these issues forward, why is it you're always kind of concerned for us?
Well, the concern is warranted. Look what's happened in the past. So, I mean, really, who knows? Who knows how badly they really want to keep this secret? Who knows who's in charge of keeping it secret? The government hasn't voluntarily come up with this information. It's only because they've had their arms twisted. It's never a safe thing to play around with information like that.
I mean, with George and me, I mean, you know, look, first of all, it's your fault. I'm gonna blame it on George Knapp would never have been into the UFO thing, and also me, if you had not come forward. We wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for what you did. That's just a fact.
Well, maybe. I mean, it might have come out in other ways. It might have just come out over time. Other people may have leaked it, so.
Whenever you warn me about, like, Jeremy, I don't know if you should put that out. I don't know if you and George should report on that. It's like the kettle calling the pot black, man, because you're the one that originally threw the UFO grenade.
Yeah, maybe so. Maybe so. But I don't want you guys to go through that stuff. Just be careful. Don't step on the wrong toes.
You see what's happened in the world. You see, I mean, what do you think of, like, David Grush coming forward?
That's dynamite. I mean, it really is. I can only hope that some more people come out.
Would you talk in front of Congress if I set that up? Would you give your testimony under those same circumstances under oath? Would you throw down one last time?
I fought the fight for 30 years, and I'm kind of happy the way it is now. The last thing I want to do is stir the pot again. So yeah. I can say under oath everything I said before is true, and that's all there is to it.
You've said before it's a crime against the scientific community, a crime against human beings to not have the basics out about this. What would you like to see happen, or what's the best case scenario? Like, could this secret be told openly?
It's a difficult question because I understand the national security implications of it. There's valuable information potentially to be gained that really could change the direction of a country. And so how do you get that out into free discussion between scientists and yet keep it undercover so the valuable information doesn't get to other countries? It's very difficult. Every other project, it seems, that the government has worked on has leaked. And this is potentially, world-conquering information, technology that can change the course of mankind. But you could at least admit the one thing that we kind of agree on at this point, that there is another civilization visiting us. At least come to grips with that.
It's like there's a lot of theories of like where these people are from or where this technology is from. But it sounds like from your experience, it is clear that whoever's operating these craft, or the one that you got to see, that they were from another, or at least the craft was able to travel amongst solar systems.
Well, more than that, because it utilized gravity, it actually distorts time. So it can travel more than just out of the solar system. And, there's no guarantee that these were aliens from another planet. I've heard people throw out theories that it's just us from the future coming back to visit. I can't discount anything like that. That could easily be true. So whether this is people from another dimension, us from the future, or creatures from a distant star system, that all remains to be seen.
Yeah. Is there anything you're not telling me, Bob?
Of course.
On a personal note, I appreciate it, man. And I just gotta say, man, you've really endured a lot. Again, whether people believe you or not, we've become friends. And as a friend, just thank you for encouraging me along the way, because I am fascinated with this, man. I don't know if we'll ever get to ground truth on this stuff, but I do know that people are coming forward who have direct firsthand knowledge of working on these. What else could we ask for, man? I mean, you would be completely validated.
I think it's coming. It just seems to be going in that direction. And as far as you and George just doing your job, there's plenty of people in prison that were just doing their jobs.
This story is never going away, Bob. You're always going to be the touchstone for people, as you were one of the first people to come forward and just put it all on the line. Unwillingly, I understand, but you did that, so it's never going away. So even though it's small to you, it's big to other people when you just take a moment and talk to us about it like this. So thanks again, man. I appreciate it.
Well, no problem. I do want this stuff to come out, but I don't know, if the mood takes me, I may come out fighting again.
I'm gonna keep doing what I have been doing. I'm going to investigate. I'm going to record. I'm going to document. I get to provide the public with new videos, new photos. And I'm gonna keep doing it, man. There's nothing that can stop me from continuing on this path unless I cease to exist. I'm fighting for what is just and right and true. Now we have pit bulls within DC that are going after this. They're going after the truth.
Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is working to introduce a bill that could let Americans finally see hard evidence of real UFOs.
I'm pleased the NDAA will include my amendment on increasing transparency on UAPs.
Do you think Chuck Schumer would put forward an amendment about UAPs and disclosure if he didn't think that there was something behind it? How much more proof does anybody need than the fact that you've got senators, the head of the Senate, where you've got their presidential candidate, Biden, running for president, putting the reputation of the entire Senate at risk with the upcoming election? Do you think that they would do that if they didn't know there was something behind it? Just read the tea leaves. I don't know how much more one needs.
We just heard that two key provisions were killed from this defense bill that basically water down the requirement to make public any information about spacecraft, about alien remains. I take it you're disappointed.
What we're witnessing right now is, quite frankly, the greatest legislative failure in American history. You had a very strong amendment for government transparency on this issue.
I wish that this process was simple. There's a lot of pressure being put on the Schumer Rounds Amendment. The thing is that it just doesn't happen like that in my world. It's inch by inch.
Congress has failed to legislate appropriately. A total failure.
I know it can be frustrating to people, but from the public perspective, people think all now, all at once. This disclosure process, whatever, if you want to call it that, it's more of a confirmation process. It's step by step. So you see things like David Grush on Joe Rogan. That was huge.
Are we alone? Well, the answer is we're not alone. And I know that with 100% certainty, which as an intel officer, you never say 100%, but I talk to the highest of the high people you could possibly talk to, if you catch my drift.
Just that conversation is being had on a mass and global scale. He has expanded the conversation. As long as we keep having this discussion and people do keep coming forward, which I am more than certain will continue happening. I mean, I have recorded sessions with people who are not known to the public, so I can be the Akashic record of their entire experiences in working in these agencies, because I'm the key person that they'll go to first and get advice of how they can safely convey information. All right, let's do this.
Jeremy was a pain in the ass, is what Jeremy was. He called me for, I guess, something like 2 years trying to get through to me. He's full of energy and enthusiasm. I suspect that if Jeremy hadn't come along, I might have been retired from this already.
We are trying to push as far as we can legally right now.
Without going to jail. He's made it a lot of fun. We've had a lot of fun with Weaponized. We've broken some pretty good stories. We've got to meet a whole bunch of people. The strength of him is that I don't think people realize how hard he works. Hours and hours every day on the phone and doing emails and encrypted messages, taking in information, trying to protect sources, making contacts with people.
What a guy, right? Cheers.
Talk to him almost every day. We email all the time. We've got to know each other's families. We're friends for real. It's not an act, and I trust him. And he trusts me. And it's been a very productive friendship so far, and we've got a ways to go.
Being able to do this kind of work with George and have so much fun and do this, like, man, let's ride this shit till the wheels fall off. Like, what a blast, man.
There's a lot of work still to be done on this topic. I'm not gonna do it forever, but I feel like it's in good hands with Jeremy to carry on the work that I started a long time ago.
We are living in a time of revolution. You can't just passively sit there in life like you deserve everything to be handed to you. The person that deserves something is the person that fights for something, the person that is tenacious, the person that is curious. We are on the cusp of a question that has kind of burdened human consciousness since the beginning. Are we alone? Just in general, are we alone? We are now on the cusp of answering that question. This cover-up, and it is a cover-up, it has harmed people having to keep this secret. You have been lied to. The only way that we're going to be able to break through this is to protect those that are coming forward. People have gone and fought to get this information out, and I don't know where we're going to land. It's going to be a fight. There's no stopping now.